Hey, it's Shireen Vishmaya, right on the eve of Shivaratri here in South India, where I postponed my trip. I'm staying a little bit longer here. Circumstances kept me here, which can't complain. I'm really happy to be here now for Shivaratri, and yeah, it's the hour. It's one of my favorite times of day here. You can probably hear all the crows in the background at the sunset. So it's got a really magical feeling in the air. And we're also right on the verge of the new moon in Pisces, which happens on Friday. So, I'm sorry, on Sunday. Shivaratri is on Friday tomorrow, and the new moon is actually on Sunday. So I always put them in my mind together, happening on the same day. But actually the new moon is happening on Sunday in Pisces with Mercury retrograde. They're actually happening together. So it's an interesting new moon, because what does that mean that it's joining with Mercury retrograde? How can we use that? A lot of people really still hold a lot of misconceptions about Mercury retrogrades, but they're really best used for introspection. You know, now it's becoming really cliche to say all the RE words like review, rethink, revamp, rest, retreat, and renovate, retrace. I really think of it as like going over something that was unfinished from the past, like some kind of unfinished business from the past, the retrograde. So it is a really good time for perhaps picking up something that you, like an old project or something you want to reconnect with over the next month, and perhaps something, depending on where Pisces falls in your horoscope, you could double up on this new moon to think of setting an intention that will cover both your, your soul longings, what you want to pour your soul and devotion into for the next 6 months, and then also what it is that you want to return to. Where's the unfinished business or project or dream that you want to reunite with? There's a feeling of reunion with this Mercury retrograde in Pisces. It's really beautiful. It's really sweet. It's really devotional. I love how since I'm in India, I'm always thinking of the Vedic astrology here, because we talk about it so much in the setting where I am. And this new moon is actually it's landing in the nakshatra, what we call the nakshatra or the lunar mansion. I think of this because we chant every morning. We do this Pushpam mantra, and we're always chanting for the nakshatras. It's part of the 4 a.m. puja to Ganesh and all the planets. It's like a Navagraha puja. So the nakshatra is actually in Shatabisha, which is the 100 doctors. So it's one of my favorite nakshatras, actually, because it's very magical. It's like finding just the one remedy. It's very Jungian too, which I love, because one of the things that's so amazing about Jung's work is that, and unlike any other psychologist, and perhaps a forerunner for a lot of spiritual teachers and teachings in the West, was how he really emphasized how unique and individual a treatment was, and how no one shoe fits every client. And this is like a misconception to think we can be pigeonholed into these treatment plans when we're so unique, and how it's always this very unique alchemical combination of elements and treatment modalities that go into curing one person, whatever it is we're going through. It's like really honoring just how mysterious the body is, and how mysterious illness is, and also how mysterious healing is, and how specific and unique, and it's always getting just the right calibration and combination of elements that fits that particular person at that particular time. It's also time. It's not just the person, but we're different at different times, right? So this is that new moon where we're really going to be delving into what is it that is unique and specific and healing for us, just us, if we really tune into what it is that we really need at this time. so that we're not looking outside of ourselves and we're not thinking like, actually what it really teaches us is that no doctor, no healer ultimately knows better than we do. We are our own healers. I mean, we go for advice, of course, but at the end of the day, you'll notice if you've ever had a mysterious illness, which many of us in this day and age have, or just symptoms, that in the final hours of trying to heal, we have to come back to our own intuition often. We tend to know what's best for us. In the final say, I mean, we take in obviously all of the input. We don't know everything. I'm not saying like that we should never see a doctor, don't get me wrong. It's more just that when you're given different remedies and advice from doctors, there's still something in us often that knows like, this medicine is not right for me, or this medicine is right for me, or we have to try it, but it's still filtering through that final, I guess that's what that nakshatra really teaches, the Shatabisha, like, you know, you might have to try 100 things, 100 doctors, 100 different types of medicine or remedies, but it's that final, like you'll know when it's the right one because it will heal you. And that you could apply that, it's not just with sickness or illness or the body, you could apply that to anything in your life right now. What is that perfect combination of elements that is healing for you and is the right thing for you right now at this time? So Pisces is a very mystical sign. It's the sign that bridges all other, not bridges, but it's like it's holding the waters of all the other 11 signs, the energies of all the preceding 11 zodiac signs. So here we are at the new moon before we start the equinox energy, and we have that call to delve into the deep waters of the unconscious. We might be drowning, we might be floating, we might be paddling, doggy paddling, or we might be swimming, like enjoying the swimming process, or just floating blissfully, depending on how we navigate our emotional waters right now, because Pisces can churn up all kinds of different feelings, you know, from bliss, from victimization to deepest spiritual devotion. It's so many things. And, you know, I've been thinking a lot as we're approaching this new moon about the shadow side of Pisces, which is addiction and where we victimize ourselves or self-sabotage ourselves. Sabotage ourselves, rather. It's like a double. So how we drown in our unconscious waters versus blissfully floating, you know, or being able to navigate our own emotions. So what we do to escape from difficult emotions, what we do to escape from difficult feelings or repeating of the past in our unconscious. Like things will come up and we don't even know that it's something from the past. We think it's happening to us in the present, and we're just projecting like a movie screen something that hurt us in the past. We're all capable of doing it. In fact, I saw this really beautiful satsang last night. I mean, I attended this beautiful satsang with a man who had been with my guru here for 30 years, and so he shared a beautiful story about how you know, he was always, you know, trying to do his best, you know, with the teacher, and how one day she scolded him and he thought he hadn't done anything wrong, and how angry that made him because he thought, wow, you know, I didn't do anything, I didn't deserve that, why is she scolding me, and all these other people are doing all these things all the time and she's not scolding them. And you know that situation we get into where you feel like you're wrongfully accused of something, and then you think, well, what, you know, why am I being singled out and I didn't even do anything? So he was very angry, and so he, you know, was boiling with anger, he said, for a few days, and then he worked through it and wrote a long letter, 3-page letter to our teacher, and then he kind of waited for her response, and he thought, oh, she must not have read it because she didn't even seem affected by the letter. And then just as he was about to get up, she said, oh, you know, son, I read your letter. And then she made a comment that really struck him. She said, you know, you forgot all the times that I've praised you or have, you know, done things in your favor to support you, all the good things I've done for you, and you're focusing on this one time, right? Why is your mind focusing on that? And then she said, but it's the way of the world. And that really struck him because that's something he had been saying in a lot of his satsangs. That was one of his teachings. Satsang is like a gathering of truth, spiritual gathering, and like a spiritual discourse. And he said that's the exact expression he would use in his satsang was, you know, that's just the way of the world. And he was expressing how he often felt critical of other people. We all fall into this, right? Like, we tend to focus on the one thing that they do wrong, or with ourselves, the one thing we do wrong instead of all the things we've done right. So we focus on, with someone else, all the things they've done wrong instead of all the things they've done right. The one thing they've done wrong versus all the things they've done right. This especially comes up in relationships, right? So I've been thinking about this a lot too, as perhaps why we then need to escape from ourselves, because we're so hard on ourselves, or we're swimming around in these thoughts that are so negative, you know, about other people who have been unfair to us or have done us wrong, or people we feel are judging us too harshly. Whatever it is, that's one thing I think that can really, with all this Capricorn energy right now, Saturn in Capricorn, Jupiter in Capricorn, Mars in Capricorn, South Node or K2 in Capricorn, that we can be really hard on ourselves. I've seen that a lot recently with my clients, just beating down on ourselves so intensely, or on others. And usually if we're being hard on someone else, we're also being hard on ourselves. You know, it's a reflection. So that's one thing that we want to look at right now at this new moon, how to have more. Pisces teaches us to have more forgiveness and more, Mercury and Pisces especially teaches us to have more forgiveness and unconditional love for ourselves, and then that will translate and filter out to others. And then the other side of this is with addiction, is our attachments to thinking that we need something outside of ourselves. We forget that, you know, all of the spiritual strength and power, the kingdom or the queendom, lies within. And we project that outside of ourselves, and we go searching to feel full, you know, or to feel complete, or to feel pleasure, or to avoid an uncomfortable feeling. And by attaching, you know, a part of our identity, part of our power, part of our strength outside of ourselves, we start to then get dependent on this attachment. You know, it's so easy to form attachments. It's so funny. I've even gotten attached. I told the story of the crow in my last video. And so since I'm spending more time here now, you know, this crow was coming to visit me every day, and I started to get dependent on the visit. I would look for the crow every day because he would show up at my window every day, and then, you know, he didn't show up for a few days. And I was starting to feel really sad because there was no crow. I really felt his absence, and I thought, oh my God, I got attached to a crow. And I was thinking of the Little Prince, you know, that really beautiful quote in the Little Prince where he says, you know, it's because of all the love and care and attention you put into the rose that makes that one rose really special. Because why this rose and not all the other roses? It's that love and that energy we give. And so I got attached to this crow because I saved him. I helped save him, you know, along with the monkey and my neighbor. The three of us saved him. And you have to watch the last video to get the full story, the full moon video, full moon and Leo video. But yeah, I really started to get attached to this one particular crow. And I thought about it because there's so many crows here, as you can hear in the background, right? There's just crows galore. And why this one crow? And I can recognize him because he's got the little missing feathers in the back of his neck, so he stands out. And I have photos of him, and he was like my Harpo. If you guys know, I have a pug named Harpo. Not replacement, no one will replace Harpo, but I was probably like, you know, I was like adopting this crow. So it was like my little crow child. And yeah, so I felt really sad when I didn't see him for a couple of days. And it just made me think about the nature of attachment, because then there were so many other crows that I don't have an attachment to. I'm happy to see them, but I haven't singled them out. So it made me think about how we do this with people. You know, why do we get attached to one particular person or a few particular people? And especially like in romantic relationships, you know, we start to project on one person. That's the person that we want to see or hear from or talk to or have a connection with. And it can be really painful because you start to, you know, a dependency can form, you know, like you don't even realize, but then conflict and suffering starts often, you know, without going into the whole thing. That's maybe for the next video. But I was thinking about another teaching that's been really powerful that's I'm going to be talking a lot about in the upcoming Project 40, which starts on Monday. If you haven't already signed up, please do. It's an amazing 40-day alchemical online journey where we'll really deal with all the stuff I'm talking about in this video. And we're also going to be working on spiritual diary, which I really love, and I've started here in India. It's really helped my sadhana, my spiritual practice here. And I want to share some ideas I have about making it more modern. You know, I learned it through like maybe a more traditional method, but there are ways to modernize it that can support your practices and your spiritual and your psychological healing and work. So we're going to be doing a lot with that over the 40 days. So it's going to be a really powerful journey through coming back into a much deeper part of ourselves and letting go of a lot of addictions. Addictions we have to relationships, social media, work. Like I said in the last video, it can be so many things we can get addicted to. It's not just like what we think of traditionally as addiction, where it might be drugs or alcohol, which of course are probably some of the more destructive addictions. But who's to say? I mean, sometimes relationships kill people, you know? There's so many addictions that are deadly. Anything that takes you too far outside of yourself and you lose a sense of yourself is deadly in some way. It's asking for trouble. So I think this is a very important work to be doing during this Pisces time. And it's also an opportunity to reclaim a really deep part of our souls. So anyway, the other teaching I wanted to share that I've been thinking a lot about over the last few weeks is one thing my teacher says is that, you know, when the attachment is in the mind, of course. We think it's outside. But one thing that proves it is, like, for instance, like, let's say you have your favorite food and you think you have to eat this food every day. Like, it's, let's say, for me, like, every morning I want to have this ragi pancake with ghee and cinnamon. It's like my favorite breakfast here. And with a hash brown on the side, because I love hash browns. So I get very attached to this very specific breakfast, let's say. And let's say all of a sudden I found out, well, actually I did, in fact, find out from the doctor that I'm not supposed to be having anything. Well, once in a while I can have it, but it's not great for me to be having fried food right now because it's too drying. It's not good for you. So, I mean, of course I knew that on some level, but I was hoping I could still get away with it. But she said, you know, once or twice a week. And speaking of doctors and Shanta Bishop, one of my 100 doctors. So anyway, of course that wasn't enough to deter me from having the hash brown. But let's say a crow, even though I love the crows, or some bird comes, my guru gives the example of a lizard peeing on your favorite food, your favorite dish. But let's say, like, yeah, lizard pees. There's always lizards in my flat here. They're so cute. Or a crow comes and poops on the food, or they come and steal it. You can't eat it. If they put their beak on it, it's toxic. Even though they're so cute, you can't then eat the food. So if something like that happens, it spoils it and you won't take it, you know? Like, you know better. You'll have the discrimination not to take it. Even if you're addicted to it, you're not going to do that to yourself, right? So why do we lack that discernment or discrimination before it actually becomes toxic? Like, in other words, before something like that happens, why does it take that extreme measure? And how could we apply that? I think about that a lot. Like, again, like realizing we've projected onto the thing or the person, we've given it the glamour or the illusion of like, oh, this is the thing I can't live without, or this is the person I can't live without, or this is the you know, the experience or whatever it is, the object that I really, without it, I'm nothing. Or, I mean, that's the most extreme, right? That's more us as a teenager. Hopefully we're not like that so much as adults, although we have those moments when we've gotten really, really attached to something. But the idea that if we could see, like, well, I think about that a lot with things that I get too attached to, like, what would be the, like, why do we need experience to show us, sorry, oh my god, you can tell Mercury's retrograde, I'm like trying to get the articulation of all the thoughts in my head, and it's kind of coming out like a watery jumbled poem or something, but I'm trying to express through these stories. So what I'm trying to say is that hopefully by reflecting on what it would require for you to see that it's really a projection of the mind, like if so I actually think, like, okay, what would be the equivalent of a lizard peeing on my food, you know, like when I'm attached to something, like, so I think of the pancake, for instance. But if I have something else that I start to feel like, oh my god, I can't live without it, and actually staying in India longer, I've had to let go of some attachments back at home when that happened, you know, and I thought in a way it was against my will, and then I said, no, actually, no, this is for my highest good. Like, why am I fighting this? I should stay. Like, instead of thinking, like, you know, the reason I had to stay at first was that my health wasn't so good. It wasn't safe for me to travel back. And then I just surrendered, which is also a Pisces theme. I just surrendered to it and realized it was for my highest good, but it required letting go of a job I really liked doing back in San Francisco. Like, I was really looking forward to getting back to teach and seeing my clients, and a lot of my attachments there. It was very difficult, you know, to just fully let go of that. But with time, you know, and when you just let go and you surrender and drop in, you realize, like, okay, but all of these things could be taken away at any point anyway. And what are we here to do? We're really here to drop into the deepest part of ourselves. That's what we're here for. So why are we resisting that? Why are we delaying that? Why are we procrastinating on that? And how can we use this new moon in Pisces, which is very spiritual, very devotional, and very inspired, very glamorous, very sublime. It's one of my favorite new moons. It's just so beautiful. To just really recommit, use the Mercury retrograde RE again, to recommit to our soul work and what does our soul really long for, and why are we putting that off? We have to stop procrastinating. Like, why are we putting that off when it's what we long for the most? And we don't need anything outside of us to make that happen. You know, that's the illusion. To make us feel complete, to make us feel whole, to make us feel blissful. That's all the illusion, you know, all those stories and all those attachments. So, you know, maybe that's a nice way to, you know, a nice takeaway for the new moon is just think, like, what is standing between you and your dreams right now, and from you, what's standing between you and the realization that you really have everything you need already. It's all inside of you. And how can you tap into that infinite space, infinite poetry, and realize there's nothing to avoid or escape. So anyway, I hope you have a beautiful new moon, and I will be back with a Venus and Aries video by request. I was gonna do that first, but then the moon was sneaking up on me, so I was like, I've got to make a new moon and Pisces video. So anyway, thank you so much for watching, and I hope you'll join me for P40.